Welcome to the Real Jesus Experience. Today we are going to be speaking to Mr. Tre Richard. He is one of my good brothers. I am so glad that God made our paths to cross because we've enjoyed a ton of really great spiritual, biblical discussions. And
Straight up.
I knew that we were going to have to do this on camera.
Yeah, man.
Welcome.
Oh, I'm honored, brother. Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for doing this, man. The world needs this. Seriously.
Yeah. Thank you. So let's start out with where you're at right now. You have 3 kids.
Three kids, man.
And a beautiful wife.
And a wonderful, beautiful, patient, gentle. I said gentle wife. No. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. How long have you guys been married now?
We've been married 11 years now.
Wow.
11 years now, and I don't know who trusted me with 3 kids. I don't know why in the world, but yeah, 3 kids. I got Brooks. He's the baby. He's 5, and Emma, she's my middle. She's 6, and then my oldest is Elle, and she's 11.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Good fun ages, hey?
Yeah, we're getting into the sports and getting into the dance, and my oldest is a volleyball player, so it's fun. We're busy.
Oh, I bet.
And we're busy.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Well, let's maybe then go back to your childhood.
Okay.
And just where did the man who is Tre Richard now get his beginnings?
Well, the last name kind of alludes to it, Richard. It's that old French, that South Louisiana weirdness. But no, I'm from I was born in New Orleans and lived there for a while and then moved on to Baton Rouge and spent, probably about, half of my life, I would say, half of my formidable years there in in Baton Rouge. Mom and dad were divorced pretty young. And so lived with my mom and my dad was an engineer. So he kind of moved where the business was and oil and gas was Houston, right? So he moved on to Houston and he was there and he was very present in our lives. And, we would go spend every summer with him and he would come and visit and come and get us. But,
so who is us?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have, at that time I had 2 siblings. I had an older sister who's Michelle. She's 4 years older than me. And I have a brother who's a year younger than me.
Okay.
Philip. Yeah.
All right. And so how old were you when your parents divorced?
I think I was in kindergarten. And I think I was in kindergarten because I remember the school I was at whenever he was showing up, kind of trying to work his way back in a little bit. And I didn't go to that school after kindergarten. We went to a different school because mom moved and things like that. So yeah, kindergarten. Yeah. I would say kindergarten. I would say I was probably around 4 or 5.
Do you have any recollection of what your perception was at the time of what was going on?
I do remember my mom and dad together. I have faint memories of that. Got Christmases. I actually remember catching them unloading Christmas presents from the back of a trunk Christmas morning one time. I remember looking out my window and seeing it. Yeah, I remember some things. I remember living with my grandmother at her house for a time between homes with my mom and dad. So I do remember certain things with them. I don't specifically remember like a conversation or a talk or anything like that. I think the assumption was that we were just too young and we would just kind of get it, I remember my sister really kind of had a hard time with it. She ended up having to repeat the 4th grade because I think it hit her really hard, right? 4th grade, she was,
wow, yeah,
right in the thick of it. And so, my brother and I, we were super young. I do remember, my dad would show up to our house with like popcorn and candy and like stay outside and things like that. And
okay,
she'd be trying to, he was trying to, come back and work it back, but it just didn't work. And I guess we just didn't grasp it. And then at that point, it just kind of became life, like dad's not here, dad's in Houston, and we get to go visit Houston. Oh, okay,
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know if we...
Was there ever any animosity between the two of them that you guys picked up on? Or was it pretty cordial?
I know there was I know now there was some animosity. It wasn't displayed. I actually think that it may have, I wouldn't even say animosity. I would say maybe just an understanding that it doesn't work. They did a good job of co-parenting as best they could. Like I said, my dad was present. Like he wasn't gone in any kind of way or fashion. He was a really good man, and he did the best he could. But no, I didn't grow up in a tumultuous situation with the two divorced parents. She very much wanted my dad to be around, very much wanted us to be around him, very much did everything she could to make sure we had that experience, and he wanted it too. Okay. So it was good, yeah.
So you guys would come to Houston for the entire summer?
Entire summer.
And that would involve like what?
Yeah, like camp, fishing, going on business trips with him, golf. I learned how to play golf with him, taking clients to play golf and playing on driving ranges. And
that's where it comes from.
It was right. I say this jokingly, but it was kind of true. I say my dad and every other black man in the country started playing golf when Tiger Woods came. Because it was right around that time where it was like Tiger came and it was like, wait, I can play golf? Yeah, let's go play golf. And you go play golf. It's like, I like playing this game. But so we started playing golf when Tiger came on, and it was fun and it was good. And we had good summers, man. My dad's a goer. And he met my now stepmom. At the time they were dating, but he met her. And she would take us, she worked for the Astros, or she worked in the Astrodome or something like that. So she would get us all of this signed stuff from the Astros back then. Wow. And we would go to Astros games, and she would take us to Funplex. I don't know if y'all remember that back in Houston back in the day, and Six Flags and Splash Town. And they were goers. They are goers, And so I think coming from a single mom who, spent her time working, because my mom worked in government, spent a lot of time working and then spent a lot of time raising 3 kids. Right. You tired a lot, so it wasn't as much going with my mom. But when we came for summers, it was like, I don't want to be here.
During the school year then, like what about holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas? Did you guys ever, was it just all with your mom? No, most of the holidays were with mom, but my dad's mom, my grandmother, who was vital in raising us. Honestly, my mom had this deal worked out with my dad's mom. Had this deal worked out where like every Tuesday and Thursday, like we would go stay with her, and my mom needed that. She needed that time. She needed that break. She was trying to move on with her life and her love life and meet men. So she needed that time to date and do all these other things. And I'm not saying that dating was the only reason, but I just think, as being a parent now, if I had to do it on my own, I'd probably be looking for somebody to help me out a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. So he would come down and visit most holidays because his mom was there in Baton Rouge still.
Okay. So he was there and around.
Right.
And okay.
Right.
All right.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So you're in Baton Rouge until when?
I'm in Baton Rouge full time until the summer between 6th grade and 7th grade.
Okay. What was school like for Tre in Baton Rouge?
School in Baton Rouge was different. It was fine. I was always an athlete. I was one of those. I'm a middle child, right? So I was a bit of a troublemaker. I have this reputation of like being a troublemaker, but I was always an athlete. I love sports.
How about the schoolwork?
Schoolwork was so. Here's the odd part. I would get really good grades. We had this conduct report that would come out every week, and the top part would be work habits, right? So the top part would be all A's. Then the bottom would be conduct, and it would be an F every week. Every week. And I got my butt whooped every week for conduct. But never grades. My mom never had issues with me with grades. My dad had issues with me with grades. My dad's an engineer, so he had a different standard.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So when I moved with him, school was fine. I almost kind of got into it with the wrong crowd. I went in Baton Rouge. Back then, there was a magnet program, a magnet school.
What is a magnet
So
school?
magnet is kind of like when I say upper level, I don't mean upper level as far as class or as far as like, ritzy or rich or income. I mean like as far as academics is concerned, if you have like I think out here would be like an exemplary school or something like that, where if they like, they prepare you differently or they prepare you on a higher level. So like a gifted, like kind of like a gifted school,
right?
So it was a school called McKinley Middle, and so it was in the middle of what in Baton Rouge is known as the bottom, and the bottom is the hood. It's near LSU, and so it's hood. So
this school for the academic achievers is in the middle of the hood.
Yes.
Okie doke.
Yes, I could not tell you the rationale behind it, but it was kind of this little like, hey, here's the school for the smart kids here. And then I remember at that time there was a big hoopla between the city or the state and the people that lived in that neighborhood, and they were like, hey, look, this school is in our backyard. It doesn't make sense that we have a public school here because magnet schools are public. Doesn't make sense that we have a public school here and we have to take our kids to school when they could be walking right here like it. And so what they did was they made kind of a school within a school. They then turned the school to be open to the community, the surrounding community, the zone. They allowed it, kids that were zoned there, they could go to McKinley Middle Magnet, but then they had this program within it where the magnet kids were still there. So I had this, and then I went to a magnet elementary school too, downtown Baton Rouge. So I grew up in really diverse atmospheres, honestly, because, you would have a really multicultural experience with these academic achievers, right? I was friends with Asian kids and white kids and other kids from different, because that's, this was the school that it was free, it was public, but it was also, hey, this is where you can go and get, proper schooling in Louisiana. Louisiana is kind of, notorious for, not having the best school districts, so a lot of people in Louisiana, New Orleans and Baton Rouge, a lot of people go to private school because the schools are not what they should be a lot of times. And unfortunately, that's the case for a lot of places, but so school was fine. So
you started saying something about almost getting in with the wrong crowd.
Oh yeah. So at that middle school, we had this oasis in there. So I was doing my magnet work and things like that, and never really had any grade issues. But I was enamored with these kids, and I remember this kid's name to this day. His name was Tutu. And I don't know why I still remember Tutu, but Tutu had such a profound effect on me as far as like just eyes opening to like gangsters almost, you know what I mean? He was a kid. I mean, we're in 6th grade and he's got gold teeth. He's got earrings. He's got tattoos. He's got all of this stuff. And he's like, just, rap culture at that time was just kind of like, oh, this is hard. This is what
right.
So he embodied that. There were several other kids that embodied that, and they would fight. And, that was how you proved your manhood. It was how you was fight. So it was like, I was cool with Tutu, Yeah, I could walk with Tutu. I could hang with Tutu. And all the other kids that would hang with Tutu, I would be around them and I would know them. I wouldn't go to class with them because I was in the magnet program. But whenever we all went to lunch or we all went to the rec hour or whatever, I was with them.
So I'm assuming they weren't, like honor roll,
no,
contributing members of society.
No.
So
no.
Did you get wrapped up in any of their shenanigans?
No, man, because so Nothing official, right? Like I never, sold any drugs with them or anything like that. And I don't even know for a fact that that's what I would assume. Yes, they did do that. Because Tutu was a 12-year-old kid with black lips and black gums, but he wasn't a darker skinned guy. He was just, so it looked like he was a smoker. You know what I mean? Like even in my mind right now, he looked like, so I don't know. But I didn't get into any of that yet. I knew it was coming that way. And I was just so enamored with it. And even just other stories in my life, I probably would have fallen into it just because of some of the things that I fell into later on in my life, just to be, either have the experience or to just fit in. You know what I mean?
Curiosity.
Yeah. And I didn't end up falling into it because the summer after 6th grade, we went to with my dad for the summer. And I don't know why, but I called my mom when it was time to leave, and I was like, "Hey, I want to stay. I want to stay in Houston." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "But you're about to start school. You're about to come back." And my dad was always like, "Hey, look, if you ever want to come and live with me, just come." And so I talked to him, and he was like, "Hey, are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "All right, well, you got to call your mom and tell your mom that I'm not doing it." And so I did, and I told her, and of course she cried and everything, but at a certain point, I felt like, only really my dad could show me how to be a man. You know what I mean? Like I really felt like that. And it was like, I don't want to escape that experience,
Right.
And everything was so fun. We were goers, right? That was another part of it too, where it was like everything we did in Houston for the summers just felt like it was going to keep continuing. You know what I mean? Just like, no, this is a great place to be. But
well, so I'm interested then up till grade 6, when your parents were still together and then after they split, what kind of a role does church play in your life? In that
church is,
what is it, like 6-8 years?
Yeah, church is literally the cornerstone for our life. I don't. So my grandfather, my mother's dad, is a preacher, was a pastor in Monroe, Louisiana, and so my mom grew up in church culture, and she sang in the choir, she sang in praise teams and things like that. I grew up as one of those kids that literally lived in church. Like if church was going on, we were there. If it was revival, I was there. If it was Wednesday night Bible study, I was there. If it was Tuesday night prayer, we were there. Anytime they needed a praise team, something like that, my mom was there and she was praying and she was praising. And so we grew up.
So just because your dad played music as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they were both involved with worship.
Yep.
And so I know that parents who are really involved with the church, the kids are usually always kind of drug along, right? Sometimes it's compulsory but sometimes they also engage in it and they're actually, getting something from it and accepting it as a thing that's kind of helping them grow in their walk. So when you're going to church all these times, like, is it just like, we're going to church today?
Yeah.
And it's like, not like, oh yeah,
yeah,
we get to go to church.
No. It's definitely not like, praise the Lord, we get to go to church today. I get to grow in my, no. It was absolutely like, hey, we got to go. So it was fun. We had friends there, right? We had people that other people that were dedicated to being faithful in whatever they were serving at that time. They would bring their kids and things like that. So we would meet up with those people. But church for me back then was definitely
you go because that's what you do.
Yeah, that's what you do. You got to go to church. If you're a Christian, you go to church. This is what you do. This is what makes you a Christian.
Right.
You go to church. You know what I mean? And so you buy into the guilt that the pastor is going to push up there to say what we need. We need either money or we need people to volunteer for this and that and the third. And then you get sucked into volunteering this thing and you kind of die volunteering in that thing. Because now, if you've been volunteering on on the communion board, you're probably going to be on that communion board till you're, 77.
Oh, wow.
And you can't do it no more. And now so it just kind of was one of those things and just felt like a real old people thing. You know what I mean? Felt like, one day whenever I'm serious about church like this, whenever I go to church like my mom and them and all of that, but it really wasn't geared towards me. I don't feel like. Was
there a kids ministry?
Yeah, but it was just a place to go hang and kick it. I mean, we would do the little worksheets and all these things like that. But I tell people all the time that, this is why I was kind of able to float like a chameleon in a lot of decisions. This is why, and we'll get into this, but this is why there was a lot of other problems in my life, is because I was such a chameleon. I was so able to kind of fit in and fly under the radar with just showing people, and it would be just kind of this assumption based off of me saying certain things that, oh, hey, this guy's real. He's serious. He knows this. Because like I said, it may have come across that we were serious about church, or we knew a lot of stuff, but we knew scriptures, and we could quote scriptures. We could tell you everything, because my grandmother would literally make us recite scriptures every morning going to school.
Oh, really?
Like, I knew the 23rd Psalm in like second grade. Like, I could quote the whole thing and like quote, basics like John 3:16 and all these. So we would, and other, things that other prayers that, like, we're not even Catholic, but she even accepted like the prayer of serenity and all these things like that. Like, she full on would make us memorize these things. So my grandmother really knew the importance of, like, hey, you need to put scripture in you. You need to memorize this stuff. Even though I won't say that we were necessarily being taught the practicality of it or the application of it.
Yeah. So you knew enough to play the part of a Christian.
Yes.
And hang with Tutu.
Yes.
And then go to class with the smart kids. Okay. All
you
right.
see this chameleon thing I'm talking about?
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
You see this chameleon thing?
So you finish up grade 6 and you go to live up the life in Houston, and you go, I'm staying.
Yeah.
So what happens? Yeah. Like, how do you go to school? And like, I mean, that's all kind of last minute.
Yeah, it's super last minute. Luckily, my sister had already decided. Well, they had actually sent my sister to live with my dad. I think it had gotten to the point where my mom felt she would be better off with my dad. And so my sister was already living with my father. And so they had already had the school in mind, because she had gone to the school I was going. She's 4 years older than me. So she was going to high school whenever I was going to 7th grade.
Gotcha.
So, but she had just come from the school that I was going to. So they knew what school I was going to go to. They knew the process because they had done it with my sister. They just kind of had to rush it through with me. But man, that was, honestly, I still have one of my best friends in life that I met that first day.
Oh, really?
Of school, yeah, absolutely. His name is Jermichael Young. He's one of my best friends in the world, and
that's cool.
I never forget my sister. The high schoolers used to catch the bus across the street from the middle schoolers, and the first day of school, I was walking there, and I was just kind of standing by myself, waiting to catch the bus. So my sister walks over, and she's like, "Hey," and she looks at Jermichael, who's my friend, and my friend Tim. Who I still have contact with, and of social media and things like that. But she looked at them and she was like, "Hey, what's y'all's name?" I was like, "Tim and Jermichael." She was like, "This is my brother. Y'all be his friend." It's like, okay. And for whatever reason,
it stuck. Well, thanks, big sis.
Right, here we go. 30 years later, 20 years later, and it's like, hey, we still friends. He was in my wedding, and I just talked to him another week, and he's a nuclear pharmacist in New York now. He was in Boston and all these other things. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, man, it's.
So, what was going on? You don't have to spill anything that you don't want to, but like, what was going on? Was your sister struggling in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I think she had just gotten to that point where she was kind of, spreading her wings and kind of rebelling a little bit. And my mom, we talked about it. There's been a lot of healing that's gone on in my family with a bunch of different deals. And I think that there was a place where my mom might have regretted it a little bit, but again, I think she could only give what she had at that moment.
So something like she just kind of needed a firmer hand.
Yeah, I think that's what my mom thought. And I think that's a general, I think that's a general idea in a lot of single parent homes, honestly, is just, because my wife even tells me how when she was a kid, her mom would threaten her to go live with her dad. She'd be like, hey, if you don't, I'll make you go live with your dad if you don't, And it's just like, you know what I mean? So I think that's just kind of one of those pictures of why the family is so important. The family unit is so important, to keep together. Absolutely.
For sure. All right, so you got a couple of pals right off the bat.
Yeah,
when you start grade 7.
Yeah.
So grade 7 and 8, you're in middle school. What transpires in those years? Anything formative or?
Yeah. So church is still a mainstay. My dad is a trumpet player, really good trumpet player, and has played through college and all these things, concert band, jazz band, all these things like that. And he found this church called Joy Tabernacle back at the time, and it was, probably one of the best church experiences I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah, but not necessarily from hey, I learned the word of God and I grew spiritually, but because it was so fun. I had such a good time as a kid at that church because they did so many different deals. The kids, there was such a big group of kids there around our age that, it was phenomenal. The pastor, even Michael P. Williams, he's a really smart guy. He was a Yale grad and all these things like that. So I think a lot of people flocked to him because of his intellect and because of how he preached the scripture. And, he still had that Southern Baptist kind of draw that drew people in, the emotional attached. But, I can't say that I don't remember. I can't say that I remember any scriptures or any preaching that he did to be able to know that. I don't know. I was so young, but but they did a bunch of youth things. They had what amounted to like a fraternity and sorority in the school. In the church.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. It was like Joy Phi Psi is what they called it, and Joy Phi G for the girls. But it was like a little fraternity, and they would do kind of biblical step shows and things like that. And we would get shirts. And I remember I was the youngest member ever, because I would watch them and be just enamored with what they were doing. And one day they just caught me doing it, and they were like, "You can do it," and I was like, "Yeah," and they just put me on stage, and I was a part of it at the time. But it was such good people, and even still today, I know some of the guys, and I keep in contact with some of the girls that were a part of that, and it's just one of those times that I just look back on fondly in my life, just as like being fun and formative. So what's that?
How long did you go there?
We went there. As long as I lived in Houston. Even before I moved here, we'd gone every summer.
Oh,
so
okay.
every summer, that's the church that my dad joined and he was a part of. So every summer we would go there, and then so I couldn't do anything when I was there for the summers. But when I moved, that was a different story. I was living here now.
Yeah.
Well, now I can really be a part of some of these things, and not just be that guy that comes in and gets a quick church girlfriend for the summer, and then because that's what it was about, for me it was about the girls. Like I gotta have a church girlfriend, and then I gotta have a school girlfriend, and then I gotta have it was
so really good times and positive memories. How would you gauge any amount of spiritual growth that happened in that time?
I would say none. I would say that, church was still very much just something we did, something I did at least. I'm gonna be real hesitant to speak for my father or anything like that, but I don't at that age, and I know the pause that I have here is that Oh, I was still young, so I didn't really get it. But today I know that that's a total farce. Like I know that there are young people filled with the Spirit of God that are on fire for God, that get it and have bought in.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bible says, how can they hear unless one teaches, or how can one teach unless one is sent? And I'll just say that, I wasn't on fire as a kid because I probably didn't get the message that I needed to get. I didn't hear it. I didn't have ears to hear. Either it was me, or I didn't get it from the place that I was supposed to get it from. So,
right.
It is what it is. God has a plan for everything, and clearly, that wasn't in His plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So spiritually, no, I wouldn't attribute any spiritual growth. I would say that very much was a church kid and
church attender, but a massive church attender. We would go every Wednesday, every Sunday, any special event, any picnic. I mean, it did not matter. If church was open, we were going. Isn't it crazy? And maybe, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but like, how many people do you think fall into that bucket that are at church all the time and haven't gotten off the bench in terms of their spiritual walk with God?
So many, man. So many. And I think I have a heart for that, honestly, just kind of being a part of it, and then realizing, like, you could not have told me I wasn't saved, though. That's the scary part, Chad, is that you could not have convinced me that I did not have favor with the Lord, that I did not have a spiritual relationship with God, because I was convinced this is what it consists of. I go to church. I'm here. I'm doing the things. I'm working.
Would you say that was based on what you observed from the Christians around you?
Yes.
Okay.
I would, because, you've heard people, I don't know if you've heard the term, maybe we've talked about it before, but churchianity instead
I
of
think
Christianity.
I've heard you mention that before. Yeah. That's good.
I would say it was definitely churchianity. I mean, it's just a different now. Mm-hmm. Now in my life, I know it's just a different deal.
Yeah. And I don't mean that question to, try to be negative towards people who are in that part of their walk right now, because, I've been there, you've been there.
Straight up.
That's why we do this, is because we want to get people out of that place and where they're actually living the walk.
Amen.
So,
and people have to hear it. People have to hear that, because otherwise, like I said, you could not have convinced me that I wasn't, but I didn't hear it either. I never got told that this isn't the way, that this isn't how it works. It was basically just a bunch of affirmation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, keep on. Yeah, Mom, you in church like that? Go ahead, boy. You know the scriptures like that? Yeah, I know scriptures.
So other than knowing scripture to be able to recite it, did you spend any significant time at all, like reading, studying scripture?
No.
Okay.
No. That was never, I guess that was just never enforced. Other than, my grandmother that would try to make us memorize scripture, right? We would have to read whatever scripture we were trying to memorize. But as far as, being discipled or anything like that, no. And I don't think, I think that the understanding was that's what happens at church. That's what you go to church for. You know what I mean? I think that was very much
let the smart pastor tell you what it means.
Yeah, we need the pastor. This is what the pastor's here for. Let's let the pastor do this. And I don't know that to be 100% true. I'm just kind of making the inference in my adulthood right now of like, hey, it makes sense that, we didn't really necessarily we didn't have Bible study at home, or we didn't have, times where it was, hey, look, we're going to clear out everything and we about to just go before the throne in prayer and we just going to pray. This is just going to be a family prayer. We did, not that we didn't pray ever, but it just wasn't, it was for certain things. Like we're going to pray before Thanksgiving dinner. We're going to pray because, whatever the case may be, but it wasn't just like an atmosphere of prayer.
Yeah.
or anything like that in the house. Yeah.
All right. So back to your other life in school, away from church. How much do those two differ, by the way? Like, you're the chameleon.
Yeah.
So you're one dude in church.
Yeah.
Is it completely different, Trey, in school?
You want to know something, Chad? The crazy thing is that no, it didn't have to be.
Oh, really?
The crazy thing is that, and Erica, God mercy, Erica could tell you something. The same Trey that was cursing and talking about girls and doing all this other stuff in school could do that with the friends at church.
Oh, so school Trey was church Trey. Oh.
School Trey was church Trey unless he was around real church folk, the adults.
Grown-ups, yeah.
The grown-ups, where he had to put on the hat.
Okay.
He had to put on the, oh man, this is a good kid. This kid.
Right.
When he had to put that hat on, he could do that. But if you were younger, yeah, we were talking about whatever in church. It didn't even
nothing to do with scripture.
No, God, no. No, my goodness, why would we talk about scripture? I was just, but that was the thing. Like, we're here. Like,
okay.
We're here. We're at church. We're already doing our part. Now,
yeah.
you saw such and such, you saw that girl, whatever it was. That's what we talked about, man.
All right. So what does high school look like then?
So 7th and 8th grade, I lived here in Missouri City, and my dad got a call to go take over a territory in Louisiana. Oh. And so we were able to move out. So I lived in Houston for 2 years, and then we moved back to Louisiana, and we moved to Slidell, Louisiana, which is just north of New Orleans.
Okay.
And so I'm back home.
Big city or?
No, very small city. Maybe 20,000, I would say. But yeah, right just north of, there's a big Lake Pontchartrain, north of New Orleans. So you cross the lake on a twin span. You cross the lake and then you're in Slidell.
Okay.
So Slidell's a very, bayou town, small town. And so I go to Slidell High School and I meet some real, figureheads in my life as far as I'm concerned. Some people that are still with me today, that I still regularly communicate with, formidable, people in my life. So that's why I meet my wife, you
guys met in high school?
Yeah, we met in high school.
Okay,
yeah.
What grade?
We met, I saw her freshman year of high school. I don't think she recognized me, but I absolutely recognized her and saw her in high school. And at that point, they would, the girls that were really like strict on themselves are the girls that like just didn't take too much crap from the guys. They would label them as crazy. They would be like, oh, that girl crazy, just leave that girl alone. And so that's the assumption that I had from her. Oh man, she crazy, leave her alone. And then, but I was just like, but she pretty though, like she's so pretty. And so I left it alone until we had class together as sophomores. Once we had class together as sophomores, we got really friendly and really cool. And she was dating a guy sophomore year, and so I had to steal her from this guy, And so no stripe to him, but So we got close, and then we started dating our junior year in high school.
Cool.
Yeah, but I did the football thing. I played football, played basketball, ran track. Like I said, I've always been an athlete my whole life. Church was still very much a mainstay in Slidell. We were Baptist at the time, and so it was kind of the same thing where, church Trey and school Trey around the younger kids could be the same guy, because there was really no youth that I remember. There was really no youth that had the mind for Christ at the time, or had the heart toward Christ at that time. It just kind of felt like going through the motions for everything.
Just simply being at church was all you needed to do to be right with God.
I mean, I'm definitely not saying you, and I know you know this, but I'm definitely not saying that for everybody's situation. But it's just how it came across. It felt like church happened on Sunday, and you went to church on Sunday to make up for whatever you did that week. And then you got to start over on Monday. and then you're gonna go back Sunday to make up for whatever you did that week. And it was kind of like a,
just like this cycle of like going in. I gotta be here because I did all this stuff that I shouldn't.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. That's not a very joy-filled cycle.
There was no joy. And now that we're talking about that, that to me, that's one of the craziest things in the world is like it was not joyful. Like it wasn't a place of joy and enjoyment. However, there was still that massive youth group deal here, even in Slidell when I moved to Slidell. So I go from one big youth movement in Houston, and then we move to Slidell, and then there's an equal kind of like, mass congregation of kids my age, and it's like, whoa, so I'm the new kid, so I get some attention and all of this, and everybody wants to like meet the new guy and all this stuff like that, and then they find out that hey, I could do these things. So there was a drill team that kind of moved, did kind of like military movements and all of this, but they would recite scripture and quote scripture and do the books of the Bible and do all of these moves and things like that. And so I joined it, and it was fun. And I did the children's choir, and my dad again is the trumpet player. Stepmoms did counting to the church and all these things like that. So it's fun. Mm-hmm. It's like a social club. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, this is fun. I like being here. It's cool.
You get a little bit of like notoriety feed the ego a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. I'm the new kid.
Right.
At that point, you couldn't tell me I wasn't God's gift. You know what I mean? So I'm just shining, and I'm trying to, be seen, and we got to go to this church and perform. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to wear this. Let's go to this church and perform, so I could figure out what girlfriend I could have at that church, and then I could have a girlfriend at that church, and whatever it was, it was just a lot of focus on girls.
Sounds like it.
My goodness.
So outside of church, how's everything else going? Like, how's life at school, at home?
Yeah, it's a bit of an adjustment as far as school, as far as culturally is concerned, because I come from Louisiana, but then I had to do this massive shift to like kill everything Louisiana in me to come to Houston, because they just didn't get it. It's almost like they didn't like it. It's almost like, Houston or Missouri City was the center of the universe for people that lived here. Mm. And so when I had my accent and I would talk this way and I would say the little slang that Louisianians say, I was looked at like, man, what are you talking? Like, shut up. What are you talking about? So it was really, when you're a kid, a lot of times in order to stave away some bullying or anything like that, not that I got bullied, but it's almost like a defense mechanism built in you. Like if you could see that that's a potentiality to be bullied, okay, I'm gonna acquiesce. I'm going to kind of disassociate myself from that part of me. Now I'm it's a safety mechanism. I'm saving myself from anything now.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's just like if you love cartoons or you love anime, and then you go to a school and it's like only weirdos love anime. It's like you may still love anime, but you're not gonna tell nobody about it. But so I had to kind of disassociate myself from that. So I come back to Louisiana fully ingrained in like this Houston culture or whatever, and talking a certain way and trying not to talk a certain way. And then I'm coming back to Louisiana and they just like, nah, you weird. Like, what are you talking about? And so it's kind of going backwards now. It's like, oh, well, I got to be this chameleon again. So I got to fit back in with these people. But the crazy thing about those guys is it was totally different. In Houston, it was all about, what you're wearing, what kind of clothes you have on, what kind of cologne you have on. Like when I was in 7th grade, dude, and 8th grade, the kids at Missouri City Middle School, they would buy Polo. Ralph Lauren was the king of everything. But Tommy Hilfiger too, but they would buy the polo shirt, the collar, kind of like what I'm wearing now.
Yeah.
And they would go and buy like the dad khaki shorts, polo dad khaki shorts with like the polo lace-up boat shoes. And they would shave their legs and wear baby oil everywhere. It was...
What?
I'm serious, man. It was a production. We would wear baby oil on your legs. These like khaki shorts, your polo shirt tucked in. You didn't have to tuck your shirt in. Like, it wasn't a rule at school.
Right.
Tuck our shirt in and wear a polo shirt.
Yeah.
And it was like, what kind of shoes are those? Oh, they're Jordans. Okay, good. Or they're this. You know, and you would get full on judged with what you're wearing. Why you oh, you wearing, oh, that's not, you know. And so then you move to Slidell and it's like, they don't care about none of that. Like, it's about, did you go fishing? You know, did you get on the water yesterday? Did you go and play? Did you practice? Did you play football? Did you do basketball? You know, they couldn't care less. So I come into Slidell with all of this materialism and all of this kind of deal that probably still has plagued me for the rest of my life. But then I come around these people, including my wife, and it's just like, I don't know what that is. You don't know what that is. No, oh, well, let me show you. Let me introduce you to this. And it's just like, yeah, I don't really care, you know? And it's like, wait, hold on a second. So now, you know, I have all of this stuff and I have this mindset, but nobody around me is into the same things. You know, everybody is all about country stuff, like Cajun stuff.
So what do you do then at this time to kind of find your groove or to fit in? What kind of things do you get into?
Just act like I've been there before, you know? So now I'm dealing with guys that you know, their idea of fun is, let's go with four-wheelers through the woods and try to get stuck in the mud holes. I've never done that before, but guess what? I'm going to do it, you know? Let's shoot blow darts at things, at each other. Let's take bottle rockets and have a bottle rocket fight where we would hold the bottle rocket to the very last minute and toss it so it at each other. We're burning up shirts and all these things like that. But I mean, it introduced me to a whole different level of fun that I absolutely loved, you know what I mean?
And so in previous discussions that we've had, you mentioned you started to dabble in music as well. When was that in the whole journey?
Yeah, that was all through middle school, honestly. I played saxophone all through middle school. Started in 6th grade and went all the way through 8th grade, and I was going to continue to do it, but football took over, man. Football took over.
But you did a little bit of rapping as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't think he's gonna bring this up. Yeah, man. We in high school we had a buddy named Bo, and Bo got really into me. So Lil Wayne, okay? Lil Wayne was a huge rapper in Louisiana for a long time before everybody knew him nationally. He was a part of this group called the Hot Boys, and he used to, before he got his big national fame, he used to come out with these things called, he used to come out with mixtapes, and it was called Squad Up. That's what he called it. And so it would basically be Lil Wayne rapping, freestyling over popular beats at the time. And so that kind of gave everyone like the confidence that they could do it, you know? So I had the confidence too. So I would practice, I would do it, but I would write. I wouldn't freestyle. I would write it. And so, you know, my dad had this thing where he would make us read every summer. Every summer we went to visit him, we would have to read 2 books and do 2 book reports. Right. So I had a pretty extensive vocabulary. I had a pretty good understanding of, like, you know, what words meant, or, you know, how to kind of put some things together. So when I started writing, I could kind of do it a little bit. And I'll never forget, I grew up, so I went to high school with Chicago Bears running back Matt Forte. And so we had a song. We were really good friends. And so we had a song that we did together.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And it was called, we used to call him M Train back then. And so it was M Train and Trey. And so we would rap, and then I had this other song where he put me on this beat, and I did a song by myself, and it impressed a lot of, you know, people in our friend circle.
Right.
Where the guy that was doing the music, he wanted to do a part on with me, and then another guy heard it, and he was like, I want to do it with you too. And so there was this circle of guys that kind of wanted to rap with me on these songs because they liked it. And I was like, man, this might work. But then that was the end of that. That was the end of that.
Kind of a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, a one-hit wonder. I had, some regional success like when I say regional, I mean the block,
Right.
like the street.
Right.
But it was fun, man. Yeah, I thought I was going to be a rapper at some point.
Nice.
Yeah.
So through high school, any deviation from good, clean fun?
No, man, because I had a very good circle. Very good circle. Like I said, me and Matt were very good friends, and he was clean as a whistle. He just wasn't into anything bad. Football was his focus. His dad was a former football player at Tulane. His mom was geared towards preparing them for it. She was doing her part and doing everything she could to make sure that she handled what needed to be handled so that they could handle what they needed to handle. And then his brother was a supreme athlete. And so they ended up both going to college and playing ball. And then he ended up going on to the NFL. But they kept him clean. They kept him in church. They kept him involved with certain things in church. They kept him around kids that seemingly fit that narrative too, or fit that piece that they were trying to portray to him, or keep in line with what they wanted with him. And so they accepted me too. I love them still to this day. Love them still to this day. They were very, very good people. To the point where like she would save my newspaper clippings from football that when I would be in the newspaper, she would cut it out and save it for me.
Really?
She eventually ended up giving it to my mom, who was living in Baton Rouge at the time, and wouldn't be able to see those papers.
Oh, that's
so
sweet.
it was super nice. Nice. They were really good people, and so then there was Jeremy Dumas, who's still one of my like literally one of my best friends today. Works with me with Crawfish and everything. He's my partner with Crawfish. So he was just a country boy. You know what I mean? He wasn't in anything messy. He loved to fish. Loved to hunt girls and things like that. But then, that was it. We weren't in any drugs. And there was a friend of mine named Andy, and then a friend of mine named CJ. So, there's a lot of friends. And these are all still guys, except for Andy. Andy passed on. But Jeremy and CJ, and I literally consider these guys still my best friends to this day. I would literally, if I got married today, have them in my wedding. You know what I mean? So,
that's pretty awesome.
But it was a really good circle. We ended up getting into a lot of the mess that we were going to get into in college. But high school, we didn't even drink. I can't say that about some of the other guys, but like I didn't even drink. My first time drinking alcohol, like getting drunk, was one time junior year. There was this celebration that they give, and it's called Junior Ring Dance. And it's basically after the seniors graduate, you still have a week of school. And so what they do is they give you a celebration when you're a junior becoming a senior. And so they give you this big celebration where you get a parade, you get a walk all in, and you take a trip, and there's a dance. And it's basically, like I said, it's just a celebration to say, these are our new seniors. And so that day we had a trip in New Orleans, and we spent all day in New Orleans. And then we had a dance that night, but we had a few hours in between there where didn't really have anything to do. And so there was these guys' houses close to the school. We just went to hang out with these guys, and for whatever reason, man, these guys' parents would buy them kegs. I have no idea what is going on, but we walked in there, and this guy's mom and dad are there, and they're doing keg stands, and we're just like, let's do it.
And y'all are juniors.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we do it, and we get drunk, and that's my first time ever being drunk, and then didn't drink again after that until college. So we just didn't get into it.
You ended up going to college with some of these guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely. I went to college with a few of them, and even the ones I didn't go to college with, we went to college around each other. So I mean, some of them went up a little bit further north in Louisiana to college. And Matt stayed down in Tulane in New Orleans, which is an hour from Baton Rouge. My buddy Jermichael from middle school, that my sister came up and said, you guys be friends with him. My parents knew his parents, and so they would allow him to come and visit every summer. So he came down for a few weeks every summer and ended up going to a pharmacy school in New Orleans called Xavier. So he ended up moving to New Orleans. So I had all of these friends. Andy went to University of Lafayette. Jeremy went to up to Natchitoches at Northwestern. So I had all of these friends within, just a couple of hours radius. But I lived in the capital in Baton Rouge because I went to Southern. And, we had buddies in New Orleans. So most of the time they would want to come down to Baton Rouge or come down to New Orleans, and we would just party and hang out. So we all stayed really tight. Really tight.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So in your college years, is that kind of like what everything centered around, was mostly the frivolities, if you will?
Yes.
Partying and having a good time.
Yes.
Less about academic achievement.
God, yes. God, yes. And I regret it so much, but yeah. No, so I went to college, and Erica went with me. She says that she went to LSU. We were both going to go to LSU. And of course, I started having dreams of football, and there was some attention from Southern to let me play football. And so I went to Southern to play football and all of that. And it was just a big regret because it didn't even end up working out like I thought it would. So I ended up just being at Southern, which was fine because my whole family had gone to that school. But
okay.
But Erica decided to come to Southern too, so we were at school together.
You guys must have been pretty serious if she's coming to.
I mean, she saw a good thing, Chad. What do you?
Okay, all right.
No, I'm just joking. No, man. Yeah, we were. I mean, she was. We were very serious. Too early. I would never allow my daughter to ever, but we were too serious too early. I'm just being honest with you. We were way too immature to have the type of relationship that we had. And that's not anybody's parents' fault. I'm not saying that they couldn't have even stopped us.
Right.
But
the heart wants what
the heart wants what the heart wants, right? And so the heart had to pay for what the heart wanted. You know what I mean? So
what was that like then? If you're going out and partying with buddies and stuff,
and she was a part of it.
Oh, she would come along with you.
Well, yeah, she wasn't a big drinker or anything like that, but Erica is not one to be left behind. That's just not her. That's not how she lives. She literally, FOMO is real for her. She doesn't want to miss out. She doesn't want to miss out, and it's cool. At the time, I was so immature and so narrow-minded that she was a nuisance to me at a certain point in college, because I'd gone to college and I knew about fraternities from my dad, who's a part of a fraternity, and then doing the junior step teams at the church and all these things like that. So I knew I wanted to be a part of a fraternity, but I wanted to party, man. I wanted to experience it. And she was kind of like the thing that stopped me from experiencing a lot of things that I wanted to do, because as a former drinker, I know you were a drinker, is nothing worse than having somebody right next to you, double checking you on if you want that next drink. You know what I mean? You sure you want that? Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? Are you sure you need that drink? Please stop. I want to get blackout drunk right now, and you're making me think about responsibilities, and I don't want to think about those right now. I mean, right. 18, 19 years old, ready to party and have fun. So she would do it sometimes, but it just wasn't her tea. She was way more mature at such a young age. But she was ready. I tell Erica this all the time. She was born a wife, I feel like. I feel like Erica would have married me had I asked her in high school.
Really?
I just feel like she was destined to be a wife, not a girlfriend, not dating around, not experiencing different things. She was born to be a wife. And so she found what she wanted and she held on to it, and she put up with a lot of stuff that she really shouldn't have, because she felt like she knew what she wanted at the time. And whether she was right or not, that's a different question. But in that moment, she felt like she knew what she wanted, so she wanted it. So
did all the partying then kind of eventually lead to some difficult?
Absolutely. We broke up several times. I mean, And it was me really just trying to kind of push the envelope. But I wanted to be able to live my life, and I wanted to have my cookie and eat it too.
Okay.
You know, I wanted to have her as a solid girlfriend, as somebody that could be there all the time and things like that. But I also thought I was still God's gift. So I wanted these other girls to experience me too. You know what I mean? Not that I wanted to experience other girls. I wanted to,
Right.
anyway. She so it got really bad when, you know, we got to college, and I would, you know, do things like not want to hold hands walking through, you know, the university. It's just like, man, we're too old for that now. That's not what we do. And it's just like, you know, she's taking these things because now I'm informing her of these things, and I'm kind of like, you know, I think even she's questioning herself, like, am I being immature with this? Like, maybe grown-ups don't do this no more. Maybe I'm still thinking like a kid in high school.
Right.
And then meanwhile, I'm using this to my advantage, and I'm just like, nah, just stay back.
Right. So she trusts you enough to accept this.
Right.
But your intentions are not honorable.
Completely horrible. So I'm able to fill this stuff in, and I'm able to finagle and wiggle and move and do these things. And so it gets bad because now I'm trying to spread these wings, and you've got this girl who's accepted so many things from me that were wrong, and that were just me trying to play the field, if you will. So she's accepted these, but then now it gets to a place where her intellect is in question, right? How much more of this am I going to accept before I start feeling like a dummy? You know what I mean? So then we get to that, we reach that point where it's like, nah, something's not right. And so she then starts to hold on. So now, whereas before, hey, look, I'm going and play Call of Duty all night with my friends. Okay. Now it's, hey, I'm going out to the bar with my friends. Why don't you just stay with me? And, you know, because now she's feeling like there might be something happening that maybe you, and I might be losing you. So now I got to hold on really, really tight, you know? Yeah. And so, yeah, it was just an immature relationship, you know, on both sides, you know, her for staying and dealing with it, and me for, you know, manipulating her and making her go through all of this stuff when I wasn't ready. I wasn't in a position to be able to deal with that type of relationship. But selfishly, I still loved her and liked her and wanted to keep her around and just wanted to still do what I wanted to do. So then it got really bad, Chad, when I joined the fraternity. So I joined Kappa Alpha Psi in 2008. And so when I joined Kappa Alpha Psi in 2008, it was almost a lightning rod. Something about the majority of historically black colleges and universities, something about them, they don't have good football teams, but they don't have football teams to the caliber of LSU, Alabama, Georgia, all these things like that. They're good players. A lot of times those players come from those bigger schools to these smaller schools so that they can make their career. And you get a lot of kids that go to the NFL from, you know, HBCU. So it's not to, you know, shake a stick at, but I would say the attention that athletes get at, you know, say Alabama, LSU, or anything like that, fraternity guys get it at HBCUs.
Really?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so I just don't think that it's even, this is my personal opinion, I just don't think it's close. And so when you join a fraternity, a lot of the athletes are fraternity guys, but when you join a fraternity, you become a, you know, focal point in the university. So when I did that, it was girls out of nowhere.
So it's basically like you got let loose in the candy shop.
I got let loose in a candy shop I got let loose in a candy shop with this at the time, and clearly this is not the right description for it, but I'm going to say it this way because this is how I felt at the time. So I got loose in this candy shop with a thorn in my side because I still have Erica. And it's like, I can't do this, that because of you. You're still here. So fabricate this reason to break up, and we break up. And so I start playing the field, right? But there's something that happened where I saw Erica and I saw her walking with the guy. And I don't even know if she knew the guy, and she could have just been passing this guy. For whatever reason, in my mind, I saw something that was mine walking with somebody else.
Mm.
And she tells me till to this day, she's like, I don't even know who you were talking about. Like, she was in full depression mode. She wasn't talking to any guys. She wasn't dealing with anything. She didn't even want to look at a guy because she was, devastated.
Yeah. I
was all she had known. You know what I mean? So she was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But when I saw that, I was like, no. Okay. I want you back. And so I got back with her. But I figured out that I'm not married. And I don't really owe you anything anyway. So I want you back, but I'm still going to do what I want to do. And that started a vicious cycle of just promiscuity, a race to see how much, how many, how often, whatever it was, and do it all while I have a wonderful, beautiful, caring, loving girlfriend just wanting me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart to even like think about it. Every time I talk about it, it makes me feel like, what is wrong with you? Because, it was all for nothing. Paul says in the Bible, he says, he throws out all his credentials. I did this, I do that. I'm this, the Pharisee of Pharisees. And now it's like, I counted all his dung.
Yeah.
What was all of that for? I mean, we had this thing within our fraternity where, guys that slept with 100 girls were special.
That's
so.
Yeah, that's about as secular as it gets in terms of keeping score.
It's just. What am I like today? What am I doing? Back then, oh, go ahead, dude. Good job. Like, congratulations. And it's just evil, Chad. And so, but this is all while I'm in the fraternity, and I'm really, having fun, and I'm
gonna go out on a limb and just guess that during your university years, you were not attending a whole lot of church.
Oh, God, no.
Ever?
No, it might have been a few times a year, and I had to.
Right.
Maybe toward the end of college, me and Erica maybe started going a little bit more, but not regularly, not involved, not plugged in. We went to this church called Bethany in Baton Rouge, and it was Joel Stockstill. Larry Stockstill was the pastor, his dad, and Joel Stockstill, who's a Christian artist. He's the pastor now, and he was when we were there too. But we used to go there.
How long does this this mindset of I need to get all of the experiences that I want?
Yeah.
How long does that go on for?
Yeah, man. Sad to say, it goes on probably about 4 years.
So pretty much all of university?
No. The back end of university going into the workforce after college. Okay. So let's just say it like that. So I majored in engineering. So that was a 5-year major anyway. So it took me, 6 years, I think it's 6 years to graduate. So come out of school. I come out of school and, so I'm experiencing all these different things, and I'm doing the fraternity life, and I'm loving it, and I'm having fun. And, the crazy thing is we used to pray in the fraternity and say things about God and chants and things like that. And that's the type of stuff that we were doing. Like, that's the type of stuff we were rewarding. We're throwing these drunken parties and these orgies and figuring out how many girls we could get and things like that. So, it goes on for about 4 years, man. I would say from about 2008 to 2012, where it was just whoever I could get, however many times I could get it, I'll do that. And I don't owe this girl anything. She's not my wife. And so we come out and we we come out of school and working, and Erica comes to visit me because she was a teacher. She was a teacher in Baton Rouge, and I'd moved. I graduated in engineering, and I'd gotten a job, and I'd moved out here in Houston. So I'm making money, and I'm, my first gig and applications and all this stuff like that. And so she comes and she visits me for what we called at that point our anniversary. It was just the anniversary of us dating, but at that point we had been dating for, I would say, 7-8 years since 2002, and this may have been 2011. And so she came and she visited, and we had a good time. And I took her around the city of Houston and bought a hotel, and we kicked it, and we had a good time. It was the first time my first check was devoted to her. I live with my dad, and so I told her, I said, my first paycheck, it's all yours, and it's yours by way of, I'm going to take you out, I'm going to do this, I'm going to spoil you, I'm going to whatever, because she had done so much for me, helping me get out of college, because she graduated before me, and so I was broke, I was doing this, and she was making money, so she would help the dream and all this stuff like that. Meanwhile, I'm doing all this dirty stuff to her and behind her back, and she has no idea. And so,
what's it like having that long distance relationship? Like, how long did that go on for?
Yeah, that went on for probably a year. And
how often was she coming to Houston, or you going to Baton Rouge?
Well, we had a deal where we would try to do it every other weekend. Whether it was she would come down one weekend and then 2 weeks later I would go down. Right. But now I'm still involved in the fraternity, and I'm still involved in school. So certain events at the college I would go back to, even though I graduated, and certain things would happen in Houston that she would want to come to. So it just depends. And her mom lives here too. So she would come and visit, regularly, honestly, because she would want to see them too. So, I mean, it happened, but.
Is this common? Because I'll just be upfront. I never went to college, university. So some of these concepts are kind of foreign to me, like fraternities. I understand what they are to a certain extent. Yeah. But you're going back after and still attending fraternity events and things. Right.
Because so there's two things you gotta, and I know a lot of your listeners are gonna understand this. They're not gonna understand this. It's two different kinds of fraternities, right? There's a fraternity that you probably seen on TV at, the major universities, TKE or something like that. Just a standard fraternity where you rush in college and you join it, and you stay in this big kind of mansion with a whole bunch of other guys, and you just do school pretty much, and it's a school thing. And then there's Black Greek letter organizations, right? And the premise of them being founded were the fact that most of them happened because they were founded during Reconstruction. Most of them were founded during the time between slavery and Jim Crow. So let's take, for instance, 1911 was when the Kappa Alpha Psi was founded. And so it's this group that came together because they couldn't come together in any other sphere. Right. So you couldn't meet publicly together. You couldn't go to a coffee shop and study and things like that. You'd have to do everything in secret. They wouldn't allow you to congregate with each other and things like that. And they also, wouldn't allow you to join their fraternities and organizations. All right. So you have, in the case of that fraternity I was a part of, you have these Black guys that are at these predominantly white universities at the time, like Indiana University, where they might be the only ones there. And so they figure out, how to incorporate themselves and come up with a fraternity for themselves. And so over time, I don't know what the purpose of the inception was, whether it was just supposed to be for college or anything like that. But it was only supposed to be for college because it was for college men. But somewhere along the line, it turned into a lifelong deal. Like I liken it to the mafia, right? It's not in concept of like drugs and crime and things like that, but more in the concept of, hey, you die with this thing. Like this thing is not just for college. This thing is not
So
just
lifelong
you
commitment.
lifelong commit this thing. And it's to the point now where you can join as an alumni member. So basically, even after you graduate college, if you want to join the fraternity, you can join an alumni chapter of the fraternity. Now,
wow.
I don't know that exists in standard in other, predominantly white organizations, but black fraternities and sororities, it's a lifelong thing. Like it's life. And I mean, even my dad still to this day goes to meetings and does things in his fraternity and things like that. But all of the stuff is still promoted. You know what I mean? It's still
same attitude.
Same attitudes, man. We were known as the pretty boys, right? So, how you dress, how you carried yourself, what type of girls you had, what your girl looked like, what fancy stuff do you have? All of these things were very like subliminally required. You know what I mean? Maybe you didn't get a knock if you didn't have these things, but you definitely got a knock. You know what I mean? It was, you felt the pressure. Right. You know what I mean? So, so that's a little bit of a difference from what you know. And so it's standard in most historically black schools. But I have all of this stuff going on, and I'm coming back with, doing crazy stuff to, with Erica not knowing. And so weekends that I'm here with her, I'm all in with her. And weekends I'm not with her, I'm with whoever, doing whatever I wanted to do, party. And I had a routine for parties here in Houston, Monday night, Tuesday night. We knew where to go every time, we knew where to go, you know what I mean? And so, inevitably you would meet people and whatever. And then a lot of times it was people that I knew back in college, and it would just be easy enough to dip back that way and do whatever I wanted to do. And so, yeah.
So, but you said you're living with your dad?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, are you back going to church with him?
No.
So he's still going to church?
Yeah.
And you're just like,
I'm a grown man now. So he's like, he didn't necessarily put a rule and say, hey, if you're gonna live in my house, you're gonna go to church and everything. He didn't do that. But so I didn't.
So you were done with that for now.
That was just we'll pick that up when I'm old. You know what I mean? Like right. With like the old church people.
Yeah.
But
all right. So how long are you guys doing the long distancing for? About a year?
We did the long distancing for a year, and I proposed on New Year's. I proposed on New Year's Eve, 2011.
So what's your thought process when you're proposing? Because in your mind, I'm guessing like you've kind of got the perfect thing going on.
Yeah.
But you proposed because...
I proposed because I was telling that story. I'm glad you said that. So I proposed because I told her my first check was hers. I'm going to spoil you. You come out here for our anniversary. We're going to kick it. And this is October. Mm. And so I told her early in the year, like, I could see me proposing to you by the end of the year. And I had forgotten all about it. I knew she had forgotten about it too. It was just an arbitrary thing I said. But she came and visited me, Chad. And we had such a good time. And it was such a mature good time, right? For the first time ever. And literally, she was leaving and she was crying. She was just like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I don't want to leave you this time. And I was like, all right, I get it. I appreciate it and everything. And so she left, and I remember getting gas. And Chad, I don't know, something in my mind was like, that's your wife, dude. Marry that girl. And I don't know, for whatever reason, it was never as clear before, even though we had talked about things and had plans and said, oh, we're going to get married. We're going to have this kid. You know how you do. Well, what kind of names would you like? And all these things like that.
Yeah.
We did all of that. But for whatever reason, that day, something was like, nah, marry her.
Something that like wasn't on your mind.
No.
So like, you think like this was like a prompting?
I think back and I try not to put God in a precarious situation, right?
Yeah.
Because we weren't living righteously, we weren't living holy. God was not in our relationship. So I don't know.
Maybe he wanted to make it.
Maybe. So I just don't know that God. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe. But
at the end of the day, you have this.
Yeah. I have this
unnatural
surety.
belief and
yeah.
feeling I got to do this.
Surety, Chad. I was sure
Okay.
that I got to do this. So sure that I didn't even go home. I went straight to the jewelry store.